Javi's tactful interruption, Chanel's heartache, and Abe's wisdom. Javi's tactful interruption, Chanel's heartache, and Abe's wisdom. Despite the tempest that was simmering beneath the surface, Salem was abnormally quiet. The famous Horton Town Square was ablaze with holiday lights, and the streets were sprinkled with the tiniest bit of frost. However, beyond the joyous exterior, underlying feelings and unspoken realities posed a threat to people's lives. The wisdom of Abe. The gentle illumination of the lamp illuminated Mayor Abe Carver's face as he sat in his office. Although he had witnessed many hardships in Salem's history, the present unrest involving his closest friends felt very personal to him. Abe was frequently consulted for counsel as the community's de facto patriarch, and today was no exception. Paulina Price entered his office with a noticeable sense of uneasiness that contrasted with her customary bluster. She knew Abe's advice might be quite helpful when her daughter, Chanel, was in difficulties. Paulina lowered down into the chair across from Abe and said, "We need to talk. Chanel has been dealing with something, and I'm not sure how to support her." With a worried expression on his face, Abe leaned forward. "Paulina, tell me what's happening." Paulina let out a sigh and tapped the armrest uneasily. "It's about Javi now, and Johnny first. Chanel finds herself in an increasingly dire situation. Abe, she's devastated. And I'm lost." Abe's steady stare revealed his intelligence. Letting her choose her own way is sometimes the wisest course of action. Don't try to manage the issue, just be there for her. Chanel shares her mother's strength. Paulina gave a small grin, but her eyes were still filled with dread. "What about Javi, too? He is complex." Abe's face became contemplative. Although Javi Hernandez was known for being a charmer when he arrived in Salem, his encounters with Chanel had raised questions. Abe stated cautiously, "Complicated isn't always a bad thing. But you might need to have a heart-to-heart with him if his presence is doing more harm than good." Paulina nodded, determination strengthening. "You're correct. As usual." Her frayed anxieties were soothed by Abe's welcoming smile. "Paulina, there has been a lot of turmoil in Salem. We always emerge stronger. Chanel will as well." The heartbreak of Chanel. In Sweet Bits, Chanel Dupree sat at a little table and gazed at an unopened coffee cup. She had usually found refuge in the bakery, but today it felt oppressive. She was plagued by memories of her romance with Johnny D. Mera. The affection, the humor, the charm, all of it now marred by heartache and betrayal. "Earth to Chanel," Allie Horton said, interrupting her daydream. With a determined yet worried attitude, she slid onto the seat across from Chanel. "All week long, you have been avoiding me. What is happening?" Chanel paused, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's Johnny. Javi, too. And everything." Allie squeezed Chanel's hand as she reached across the table. "Begin at the beginning." Chanel inhaled deeply and described how Johnny had retreated, his words piercing and his movements unpredictable. She talked about Javi's unexpected entrance into her life, his indisputable charm, and the uncertainty he had caused in her already vulnerable heart. Chanel admitted, "I feel like I'm being pulled in a million different directions, and none of them lead anywhere good." Allie's forehead wrinkled. "If Johnny is letting you go, he's a fool. Do you trust Javi, too?" Chanel's silence was quite telling. Allie firmly stated, "Chanel, you deserve someone who sees you, all of you, and loves you for it. Don't accept anything less." Her words resonated, but the bell above the door jingled before Chanel could react. She turned to see Javi, who immediately caught her eye with his easy smile and assured gait. He went directly to their table. "Ladies," he said in a silky voice. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." Chanel felt sick to her stomach. Javi, what are you doing here? His smile wavered a bit. I came to visit you. Can we have a conversation? The gentle interruptions of Javi. Chanel nodded when Ali gave her a curious glance. All right. Let's have a conversation. She followed Javi to a more peaceful area of the bakery. Chanel was taken aback by his true vulnerability, which replaced his typical charm. Javi started, I realize I've complicated things. However, Chanel, I want you to know that I genuinely care about you. Perhaps more than I ought to. And I apologize if I've hurt you in any way. Even though his statements made Chanel's heart hurt, she was unable to deny the chaos he had brought into her life. Javi, I'm at a loss for what to think. You're not making things better in my already chaotic existence. Remorse filled his gaze. I never intended to cause you any hardship. However, I can't deny my feelings. The Sweet Bits door slammed open before Chanel could reply. Johnny barged in with a mask of rage on his face. Really, Javi? You're acting like this now? The room became really tense. Ali stood, poised to step in as customers whispered. Chanel stated calmly in spite of her internal turmoil, Johnny, this isn't the time or place. No, Chanel. He must hear this, yelled Johnny. He looked at Javi. Keep your distance from her. She is not in need of your games. Javi's composed expression broke. Johnny, how are your games going? Don't pretend to be a saint. Chanel's tolerance ran out. Enough. You too. This is about me, not about any of you. And I need time to sort things out right now. They were both silenced by her shout. After Chanel stormed out of the bakery, Johnny and Javi were left to look at one another. Getting clarity. Chanel was experiencing a flurry of emotions as she strolled around the square. When she finally arrived in the park, the fresh air and isolation brought her peace. She tried to unravel the web of emotions by mentally reliving the events while she sat on a bench. There, Abe discovered her, his presence a comforting one. Would you mind if I joined you? She gave a headshake. How are you able to locate me every time? Abe grinned. It's a gift. Do you want to discuss it? Chanel nodded after hesitating. She opened up about everything, including her mixed feelings for Javi and her lingering affections for Johnny. With patience, Abe listened, and his silence urged her to go on. He added, Chanel, love is rarely simple, once she was done. But you'll find your path because you're strong. Have faith in your ability to make the best decision. His remarks enveloped her like a cozy blanket. Chanel had a flash of insight for the first time in weeks. A fresh start. Chanel was prepared for whatever lay ahead when she stood at the bakery the next morning. Johnny was the first to come, his face contrite. I'm sorry, Chanel, he said. For everything. You didn't deserve me to be such a jerk. Although she valued his candor, she was aware that she couldn't fully lower her defenses. I'm grateful, Johnny. However, I need time. Soon after, Javi showed up, his typical assurance replaced by a quiet resolve. If you need space, I'll give it to you, Chanel. However, I will not give up on you. Although her heart was pulling in two different directions, she was happy to let time and introspection lead her for the time being. Chanel was prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead, on her terms, of course. From the window of his office, Abe looked with a faint smile as the lights of Salem glowed in the darkness. Although the town was full of drama, it was also full of tenacity. And that was the most important thing in the end. Days of Our Lives, Abe's Wisdom, Chanel's Heartbreak, Javi's Delicate Interruption. The fictional town of Salem has always been a magnet for intense drama, heartbreaking betrayals, and moments of surprising tenderness. At the heart of it all, the residents struggle with their intertwining lives, each day offering a new twist. This week, we delve into the intertwined journeys of Abe Carver, Chanel Dupree, and Javi Morales. Their lives collide in unexpected ways, bringing forth a mixture of wisdom, heartbreak, and delicate negotiations. Abe's wisdom. Abe Carver has been a cornerstone of Salem for decades. From his days as a steadfast police commissioner to his current role as the beloved mayor, Abe's presence exudes stability and reason. However, even a man as grounded as Abe has moments when life tests his resolve. The week begins with Abe reflecting on his recent health scare. After suffering memory loss from a traumatic kidnapping ordeal, Abe has been slowly piecing his life back together. His wife, Paulina Price, remains his biggest advocate, pushing him to take on fewer responsibilities and focus on his recovery. But Abe, ever the public servant, insists he still has a duty to Salem. At a town hall meeting, Abe's wisdom shines. Facing a divided community over plans to redevelop the Horton Square, Abe listens intently to both sides. On one hand, local business owners, including Chanel, are worried about losing their livelihoods. On the other, developers argue that modernization will bring in more revenue and jobs. Abe's measured response, urging compromise and mutual respect, leaves the room silent and contemplative. Progress doesn't mean forgetting who we are, Abe says, his voice steady. And holding on to tradition doesn't mean we can't grow. Salem is at its strongest when we come together, not when we're at odds. Abe's words resonate deeply with Chanel, who's been grappling with her own personal turmoil. Little does Abe know, his advice about unity and resilience will soon be tested in ways he couldn't have foreseen. Chanel's heartbreak. Chanel Dupree is known for her vibrant personality and entrepreneurial spirit. Her bakery, Sweet Bits, is a staple in Salem, and her warm smile often hides the pain she's endured. This week, however, Chanel's heartbreak is laid bare for all to see. It begins when Chanel discovers that her ex, Johnny D. Mara, has moved on with Wendy Shin. Despite her best efforts to stay composed, the sight of them together stirs up old feelings. To make matters worse, Chanel's mother, Paulina, unknowingly exacerbates the situation by encouraging Chanel to focus on her career and forget about love for the time being. "You're a strong, independent woman," Paulina says, patting Chanel's hand. "Men come and go, but your dreams? They're forever." Chanel nods, but her heart aches. Later that evening, she confides in her best friend, Allie Horton, about her feelings of loneliness and inadequacy. Allie, ever the supportive friend, reminds Chanel of her worth. "Johnny's an idiot if he can't see how amazing you are," Allie says, her tone firm. "And Wendy? She's no competition. You're Chanel Dupree, and no one can dim your light." Despite Allie's words, Chanel's heartbreak deepens when Sweet Bits becomes the target of a smear campaign. Anonymous reviews flood the bakery's website, accusing Chanel of unethical business practices. The accusations are baseless, but the damage is done. Foot traffic slows, and Chanel begins to doubt her ability to keep her dream alive. It's during this low point that Chanel attends Abe's town hall meeting. Inspired by his speech about resilience, she decides to fight back against the false allegations. With Allie's help, Chanel launches a social media campaign to clear her name and highlight the positive impact Sweet Bits has had on the community. The response is overwhelming, with loyal customers rallying to her defense. Still, Chanel's heartbreak lingers. She's determined to move forward, but a piece of her longs for the love and stability she sees in others. Unbeknownst to her, a new challenge is about to enter her life, one that will test her resolve even further. Javi's delicate interruption. Javi Morales is a newcomer to Salem, but his arrival is anything but quiet. A charming and enigmatic figure, Javi is quickly revealed to have ties to both Chanel and Abe, though neither is immediately aware of the connection. Javi first crosses paths with Chanel when he visits Sweet Bits. Their interaction is brief but memorable. Javi orders a coffee and compliments Chanel on her bakery's ambience. His words are simple, but there's a sincerity in his tone that catches Chanel off guard. "This place has heart," Javi says, smiling. "You can feel it the moment you walk in." Chanel is intrigued but wary. She's been burned before and isn't keen on opening herself up to another potential heartbreak. However, Javi's presence becomes unavoidable when he's later introduced as the new urban planner working on the Horton Square redevelopment project. The revelation puts Javi in a precarious position. He's immediately drawn to Chanel, but his professional obligations place him at odds with her. As the two navigate their budding connection, Javi's motives come into question. Is he genuinely interested in Chanel, or is he using her to gain leverage for the redevelopment project? Meanwhile, Javi's connection to Abe emerges during a private meeting. Javi reveals that he's the son of an old friend of Abe's, a man who once worked alongside Abe during his police commissioner days. The revelation surprises Abe, who remembers Javi's father as a man of principle. This connection complicates matters further, as Abe finds himself torn between his personal feelings and his duty to the town. Javi's delicate interruption reaches a tipping point when he uncovers evidence suggesting that the smear campaign against Sweet Bits was orchestrated by a rival developer eager to discredit Chanel and sway public opinion in favor of the redevelopment project. Faced with a moral dilemma, Javi decides to come clean to Chanel, risking both his job and their fledgling relationship. "I couldn't stay silent," Javi tells Chanel, his voice earnest. "You deserve to know the truth, even if it costs me everything." Chanel is stunned but grateful. Together, they present the evidence to Abe, who uses his influence to expose the corrupt developer and halt the redevelopment project. The victory is bittersweet, as Javi's actions force him to resign from his position. However, his integrity and courage win him Chanel's respect and perhaps something more. Moving forward. As the week concludes, the lives of Abe, Chanel, and Javi are forever changed. Abe's wisdom has once again guided Salem through a tumultuous period, reaffirming his role as a pillar of the community. Chanel's heartbreak has given way to a renewed sense of purpose, with Sweet Bits thriving and her confidence restored. And Javi, though faced with uncertainty, has proven himself to be a man of principle, earning a place in Salem's tight-knit community. In true Days of Our Lives fashion, these stories are far from over. The bonds forged and the challenges overcome this week set the stage for new adventures, ensuring that the drama in Salem remains as captivating as ever.